Media, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is all set to announce his resignation amid health concerns in just a few hours from now. This comes after the 65-year-old Abe visited hospital twice within a week. Not much is known about the diagnosis, but reports said that the Japanese Prime Minister underwent an examination that lasted for 7.5 hours. Upon his return, Abe had said that he was doing everything to maintain his health and do his utmost at his job. Abe, who is already Japan's longest-serving Prime Minister, resigned from his first stint in office in 2007 because of struggles with a bowel illness. His condition later improved due to advancement in medical science and availability of new drugs. However, many are now concerned that the long working hours due to the coronavirus crisis has been taking a toll on Abe's health. A report even claimed that Abe had vomited blood in his office last month. Government officials had rejected the report as incorrect back then. Now, Abe's approval ratings have, however, dropped amid COVID-19 pandemic, as many Japanese feel that the government mishandled the crisis. We are now being joined by Professor James D. Brown from Tokyo. Now, Professor Brown is an international affairs expert, and he's joining us for more details on this story. Now, Professor, can you give us the latest update? There's a lot of speculation on whether Abe is going to resign or not. What are you hearing in Tokyo at the moment?
So we've known about this press conference, which is taking place very, very soon in Tokyo, for several days now. But the expectation was that this was going to be an update on the Prime Minister's health, and that it would actually suggest that he is undergoing treatment and that he's okay to continue in office. So when just about 3 hours ago we heard the news coming from the state broadcaster NHK that he's actually going to resign, it really came as quite a surprise. The expectation had been that he was going to remain in office for really several months further. So we have to wait for the actual announcement, which is perhaps coming in just the next half hour. But it seems almost certain that he is stepping down.
Right. So there were major, reports about Abe's hospital visits. Any update on that? Do we know exactly why he visited the hospital?
No, we don't. And it was kept really quite secret. There were these two visits just 1 week apart. And the first one of those was for 7.5 hours. So I don't think the Prime Minister visits hospital for that long. If there's not a serious problem.
Absolutely.
So we know he's been unwell, but the belief was that it was manageable. We knew that at the very most he was going to remain in office for 1 year longer. But to have him step down quite so suddenly is really quite a surprise, especially because he's been in power for such a long period of time now.
Now, Abe is Japan's longest-serving Prime Minister. He's lauded for his Abenomics policies to lift the economy out of deflation, beefing up Japan's military, and his efforts to counter China's growing clout in historic two-term tenure. But of late, he was and his administration is facing criticism for their handling of the pandemic, isn't it?
That's right. And this happens with all political careers, that Abe has been a very successful Prime Minister, but there's been the feeling for quite a long period now that it was coming towards an end. His approval ratings had dropped, and it's not only about the handling of COVID-19, it was also the feeling that even before the pandemic, the economy was not performing well, and also on some of the major things that he had promised, such as trying to resolve the hostage issue with North Korea, which is a big thing in Japanese politics, trying to resolve the territorial dispute with Russia. On all of those fronts, he had not really been able to achieve what he had promised.
Right. So, Japan still remains one of the biggest economies in the world, third biggest economy in the world. It is a regional power. Abe has been a successful leader, like you mentioned. What next after Abe? Is there a successor already in line?
Well, already, just within the last few hours, the speculation about this has become very feverish. And it seems like the suggestion, this will have to be confirmed, but it seems like Abe is at least going to be able to stay on until a permanent replacement is chosen. It seems like his favored candidate is the former foreign minister, Mr. Kishida Fumio, but he actually doesn't have so much popularity with the general public. There's another figure, Ishiba, who has more popularity, around 23% of the Japanese public seeming to support him, but Abe himself doesn't seem to favor him. So it's really going to be quite a fight within the ruling LDP party to see if Abe can get his favored successor in place.
Professor James D. Brown, thank you so much for joining us. This is a surprising development, and we're all looking forward to that press conference that Abe is expected to address in just a short while from now. Thank you so much for joining us.